Welcome back to NSC's weekly series Spotlight. What a time it has been for the club. From gearing up for its first ever trophy and now headed to decision day against Inter Miami. We'll talk about all that and more here on Spotlight. Welcome back, guys. Nashville SC is a championship winning team. Nashville SC defeated Austin 2-1 in the US Open Cup final. Lucas, tell us what some of your highlights were from this final.
Well, your biggest star stepping up in your biggest moments, right? Hani Mukhtar opens the scoring in the 17th minute. You get a cross in from Sam Surridge. Jacob Schaffelberg, just with the awareness to know Hani was right there lurking behind him to chest it down into his path, and one-time strike bounced into the back of the net. Nashville had the early momentum in this game. Credit Austin at home. They grew into the game. They had wave after wave of pressure. Penalty kick comes up. Brian Schwacke steps up, saves it, had it read all the way. Austin, of course, gets their goal before halftime, and then you go into the break and 45 minutes left to play for a trophy. I mean, what more could you want in terms of the stakes of it? And then Jason Palacios gets pulled down on a corner kick, and you had all the confidence in the world. Sam Surridge was going to step up, score his 28th goal in all competitions, 6th goal in this competition, Golden Boot winner in the U.S. Open Cup. And then Jaleel, it was just about handling the chaos of a final, right? In those last moments, whether it's Sam Surridge getting a second yellow or Nashville just trying to grasp onto that lead where you want to control a game the whole way, but I think BJ Callahan talked about this after the game. At some point, you just have to do everything it's going to take to win in that moment. And for Nashville, it was bunkering down and getting on their way to a 2-1 win.
Yeah, and what I liked about it is that even within the game, you couldn't tell where it was going to go. They carried more big moments of the game, in my opinion, but for me, the last 10 minutes or so, I was like, okay, this really could go either way. Because if Austin was able to find a late equalizer, you would have probably maybe switched bets if you're a shifty person and put them on Austin because they would have had the momentum late in the game or going into overtime. And those are things that can change the molecules of the tides of how a final goes.
With a man advantage possibly too.
Correct. So I think even with just looking within the game itself, you have to give Nashville a lot of credit because their character really shined through in a moment where it needed to the most.
How big of a milestone is this, not just on the field, but off the field too, as someone who played on this team?
It's massive. I don't think it can be stated strongly enough. Because when you mention that, yes, NSC is a championship team. They win their first U.S. Open Cup. And obviously for everyone who is tied to this club, they hope that it's many, many more. But it's the first championship in Tennessee sports history. That is massive as well, and that runs deep because, I mean, I grew up as a Cali kid rooting for the Tennessee Titans to win the Super Bowl back in the day. So there's a lot of ties here, and there's no way that we can touch on all of them just in our short show. But being a former player of the club, it definitely runs deep for me because, you know, I was part of the initial group in terms of the MLS days to really start the history and to now see especially the guys that have been here from day one of the MLS days. And then when you go back to a Taylor Washington who's been here with the club from, you know, the USL days and all of the new members of the club, whether they recently signed, whether they signed this year as their first year or they've come even in between. It's just a great milestone, and I think everybody who has what of a little bit of a connection to the club, if not a massive part of a connection to the club, everybody is very, very happy, proud of the group, and proud to be part of this club.
And what about you from a media standpoint? You've been covering Nashville SC for years. What is it like to be able to cover, obviously you cover all Tennessee sports, but to be able to cover this one and see their very first championship?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of sort of pinch me moments, right, in Nashville SC's short history from the early days where John Ingram and Don Garber are announcing that Nashville's getting an MLS club, going from USL to MLS. That first game at Nissan Stadium, that first game at GEODIS Park, that first playoff game, whatever milestone you want to mention, and then for it to end up in silverware at some point along the road, I think it's validation, number one. I think it's proof of concept that you come into this season, into 2025, with Nashville SC 2.0, for it to lead to silverware as quickly as it did, because they're not going to be done, right? There's a playoff push still to come for this team. There's a long-term process still ahead for BJ Callahan, Mike Jacobs, everyone on down, but That's just why you do this, guys. That's why players play, coaches coach. It's why fans are there every single match day watching Nashville, watching from home. You do it to lift trophies. So to see that kind of come to fruition in Austin, yeah, it's hard to overstate just how special a moment that was for soccer in Music City.
Let's relive a couple of those moments and talk about some of the individuals who made this happen. I always love that you say it's not just an individual, it's the whole team. But when you do look back at the US Open Cup final, who were some of those individuals that did stand out to you?
I mean, I'll start with Wyatt Meyer, because for me, the turning point of the tournament is the win away at Orlando. And anytime you're able to go on a victorious championship run, you always look back and you're like, okay, what moment was it that really led us to believe, like, no, we're champions before we even hoist the cup? And for me, it's that moment. And that was a breakout game for him individually. It wasn't just him. I mean, Qassem was great in that game. That was one where the whole team galvanized around the trip to the final. And that's what you need for US Open Cup. You need the entire group. You can't win it with just your typical starting 11 in MLS games. You can't win it with just like 13 or 14 or even 20 guys. You need everybody. So for me, that's a huge turning point. Of course, when you're looking at the group, you're going to be talking about Andy Nahar. You, of course, will be talking about Sam Suric. You will, of course, be talking about Hani Mukhtar. And that seems to be kind of how this club has really garnered success, talking about the stars. But again, for me, and I've said it for a really long time, you can't just have one. For so long, Hani Mukhtar's been doing pretty much everything on the offensive side, carrying the brunt of, if the team needs to get out of precarious moments, it's him that lifts them out. But now you have Sam Suric just hitting the back of the net for joke. And Andy Nahar is producing assists, producing even very good defensive moments as well, where they have become the three stars in Nashville, and you always need at least three to win a title, point proven.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a blend of all of those things, right? To your point, to win a domestic cup competition, sometimes you go even deeper into the squad depth than you do throughout the grind of a regular season, right? Brian Schwacke gets the opportunity. The US Open Cup was his competition. There was no doubt about it, and he made it his competition. The penalty save in the final, he was consistent throughout the course of it. So a combination of, number one, your biggest stars coming up in the biggest moments. Who are the goal scorers in the final? Hani Mukhtar and Sam Suric. And that squad depth just sprinkled in. Josh Bauer scoring that game winner against Chattanooga in the early stages. Wyatt Meyer with that game winner in Orlando. That crazy game. Brian Schwacke, just to name a few. And then in this moment, I think it's good to take a step back too and take a look at the guys that have been here since the very beginning, through some of the ups and downs since 2020. Hani Mukhtar, Walker Zimmerman, right? Dan Lovitz, Joe Willis, Alex Muil, who came in a little bit after the very beginning of MLS soccer in Music City. For those guys to kind of ride some of the waves that have come through this franchise in the last few years, the changes in coaches, the changes in styles of play, Nashville has evolved with those players, still has foundational pieces, and been able to work around them and kind of in complementary ways figure out how to put those guys in the best positions to succeed. I think that's incredible. That the person that scored the first ever goal in Nashville SC history, Walker Zimmerman, is on the field shoring things up defensively for the club's first ever trophy 5 years after the fact.
Right, and it's not too often that you get this opportunity. I mean, Jaleel, you can speak more into this. How many times, I mean, I'm not sure on average, but how often do you get to go into a tournament at the final and be able to compete for a trophy? And what does that trophy do for the identity of the club?
Yeah, you're etched in history with that group forever. And that's what coaches always say in the locker room. And, you know, if you've been around for a long time, it kind of feels like a cliche, but it's true, though. It's very, very true. This group of players, along with the coaches and the technical front office, so Mike Jacobs, Chance Myers, the rest, they will remember themselves as a cohort for the rest of their lives. It's just how it goes in sports. So that's dope, first of all. But it's very difficult to do. And it's why we all love professional sports. Everybody is out there every single day, not just on the weekends. They're out there every single day trying to essentially do the impossible. So when you're able to do it, yeah, it's dope to take a step back, recognize what you've done, but whenever you win anything, you have a bigger target on your back. And I think that perfectly sums up this weekend's fixture.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about the draw in Montreal. So shortly after their championship cup, they had to travel over to CF Montreal, took 1 point, but what did you make from that performance?
Well, number one, it's a tough ask, and I'm not here to make any excuses for the club. You know, BJ Callahan, Nashville players aren't making any excuses, but you're going north of the border and playing the earliest game of the match day 3 days after hoisting a cup, a trophy, in a cup final in Austin, Texas. So it's a quick turnaround, granted, but they all count the same. You still have to come out and produce. And this was just Nashville breaking the dam, I think, in the second half. You give up just an absolute banger of a free kick goal by Dante Seeley on a foul that you don't want to give up at the top of the box, but it happens. You're down 1-0. And then Nashville just started chipping away. Probably just unfortunate not to find that winner. They hit the post. It was an incredible goalkeeping performance on the day from Montreal. Of course, it's Sam Surridge who breaks the dam on the cross in from Gaston Brugman. But you grab the point and you head into a much needed break, right? Just take a reset to gear up for decision day and another push for a trophy. I mean, that's got to be the hardest thing from a mentality standpoint, Jalil, I would imagine, is coming off of a U.S. Open Cup final, the high of that, something so unique to soccer too, right? And then have to immediately shift the mindset back to, no, critical 3 points are on the line here, and then you're in postseason mode in the MLS Cup playoffs.
Yeah, it's taking me back to my days when won an Open Cup with Seattle in 2014, and we were riding high. And we won the Open Cup on the road, and then we had to quickly turn it around and play a weekend match at Red Bull Arena, and we got absolutely destroyed by a very good New York Red Bull side. And the cup hangover that we always reference in football, it's real. It's very, very real. We even saw it last year with Nashville as they crashed out of the League's Cup final and then had to try to turn things back around. It's not an easy thing to do. So this might be the only time I'll ever say, like, yeah, a point makes sense. But you have to flip the script very, very quickly. Like, yeah, we did the trophy celebration, which was dope, by the way. We were able to have the cup here in Nashville, and it's here. Yeah, that's all of that is awesome. And again, you can't talk about the historics enough, but the best teams in the world are able to compartmentalize their successes. US Open Cup is different than MLS Cup. And to be frank, it's over. Now it's about the MLS playoffs, because this run into the playoffs in the Eastern Conference is historic. We have not seen teams in the East getting this many points and still going into decision day very uncertain about their future. And that is what's top of mind for every single player, and it is even above top of mind for BJ Callahan.
Mm-hmm. I think one thing I respect so much about our players and the team is during the U.S. Open Cup trophy ceremony, so many of them said, we are hungry for more. This isn't just it. Like, yes, we're happy with this. We're thankful for this, but we are so hungry for more, which, by the way, shout out to you. You did a great job hosting the event. Shout out to the Nashville SC fan base who came out not only to that, but to also the watch party for the Open Cup final. Those were moments that from a front office side that I will relive for the rest of my life, just popping off the streamers and taking that in. And you get to keep that forever, right? But then now you move forward, you take a look at what is the last regular season match of the season, which is one of the biggest ones against Inter Miami. Lucas, let's start with you. What are you expecting to see from Nashville SC?
Well, from Nashville, I expect a refreshed group, right? Where you have a week off. The international break has kind of just come at the perfect time after that cup final to get you ready for decision day. I expect Nashville to look like Nashville, to be full strength, and to play at the intensity level that you may see in a playoff match, because this is a huge game for Nashville. Nashville has 2 goals in this game. Number 1, stay out of that 8 seed, rather, to avoid the play-in game in the Eastern Conference playoffs. Number 2, to get into the top 4. To do that, you're going to need some help. If Nashville can just win or draw, they accomplish goal number 1. They avoid the play-in game. If Nashville can get all 3 points and they get NYC and Charlotte losses over the weekend, Nashville will be a top 4 team. They'll have home field advantage. So it's the excitement of decision day, right? That's why you love it. All the games start at the same time. Fans are scoreboard watching on their phones in the stands. The star power that'll be in this building, obviously with Inter Miami. But it's pretty simple, the stakes here, Jaleel. Stay out of that play-in game and do everything in your power to sneak into the top 4, which is ultimately to get 3 points.
Easier said than done, because when you talk about competitions that happen throughout the course of the season, Inter Miami is very, very comfortable and familiar with that. Not only playing in the Club World Cup, but the League's Cup as well. Getting to that final yet again. They had a little bit of a cup hangover, but they're back in full form. And full form in a scary, scary way. The way that they dismantled Atlanta at home over the weekend past, is one where you're looking at it like, okay, Nashville needs to be up for the top challenge. But for me, that's exactly what you want. That's exactly what you want going into the most important part of the regular season, which is always going to be decision day. Can you play against the best? Do you have the biggest challenge for you? And if you come out of this fixture on top in a very confident way, that segues you perfectly into the playoffs. But we're talking about a lot of ifs because, again, this Eastern Conference run, we have never seen anything like it. The points that Nashville currently have, if you even rewind just a year, you're chilling in like second or third place going into decision day, knowing that your future is locked in. And Nashville and Miami aren't the only two teams in the Eastern Conference feeling that way. So there are a lot of, we need to be on top of our game vibes going into decision day, especially in the East.
I'm curious, what would you say is the contributing factors to the competition this year and why it's so much more competitive to previous years?
Teams are getting better. They're making better signings over the offseason. Teams are more deep. They have more hitters on the offensive side. Throughout the midfield, you have a lot more dogs. You have a lot more players that can facilitate going forward to create more moments that change games. And then, of course, the back line, that's where I operate. The back line is strong. The back line is the back line, right? And when you look through the teams that have been very good in the East, they all have at least those three components with extra sauce that is just native to where they're from, right? So for me, it's the league growing, it's the product on the field growing, it's all teams looking around and improving their processes and saying, okay, if we want to compete, yesterday's price ain't today's price, and we need to be able to pay and do what we need to do to make sure that we're in these conversations come decision day. And frankly, this is where you want to be for any club, especially Nashville.
Before we wrap up, let's talk about the Golden Boot race. What does Sam Surridge have to do in order to make a late push to be the lead of the Golden Boot?
You probably got to score 4 goals, if I'm being honest, to be part of it. And look, I think when you sit down and you talk to Sam, he has a demeanor of like, we used to say, he could play it off like it ain't jumping. Meaning like, yeah, I mean, I've scored all the goals that I've scored, but like, he's very chill with it. But best believe he wants to be the one that is saying at the end of the day, I have the Golden Boot. It's another piece of like silverware, if you will, even though it's an individual accomplishment that's here in Nashville. But when you're going up against, again, this high level of course, the best in the world, but also, too, there are other players that have been making sure that Sam Surridge is on point when it comes to the Golden Boot race. Very much easier said than done.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, 4 goals would be what you would have to do bare minimum to get the lead, and that's if you keep Lionel Messi off the score sheet on Saturday. Now, I'll be curious as to who does or doesn't play for Miami this weekend. This is an Inter-Miami team that you mentioned. They were in Club World Cup this past summer. They were in CONCACAF Champions Cup. They were in Leagues Cup. This will be their 50th game in all competitions in 2025, right? So they've solidified their spot in the top 4. How badly do they want to jockey for that 2 seed in the Eastern Conference? That's a big question. So do we see Lionel Messi? Do we see Sergio Busquets, who's about to retire, Jordi Alba, all of the stars, and there are many that Inter Miami brings. So that'll be a big question in this game. But Sam Surridge, 3 goals back of Messi in that race. So it would take an outlandish performance on Saturday. It's not beyond him. Yep. We've seen it from Sam in 2025, so we'll see what happens.
We've seen it before. What is one key for NSC to walk away with 3 points on Saturday?
For me, it's got to be this press for Nashville. It can't be disjointed. I think they're going to have fresh legs. They'll be off that week of rest from the international break, and this is a Miami team that can take advantage, that can hit you on the counter, that has some of the best playmakers, not just in Major League Soccer, right? In the history of the game, when you're talking about Sergio Busquets, Rodrigo de Paul, who still, in my opinion, is one of the best at plying his trade in all of world football. So for me, Jaleel, it's about being on the same page, remaining compact with that intensity and energy in the Nashville press that has been, 1A, 1B when you talk about their identity in 2025.
Yeah, I would say 2 things. The defensive unit and taking care of your goal scoring opportunities, because one thing that Miami doesn't do very well is limit goal scoring opportunities on the other end. Yeah, they generate more opportunities, more goal scoring opportunities than anybody in the league. That is very well understood, and we all know why, as to how you eloquently put it just now. But there will be chances to score. Are you as clinical as you have been in the biggest games of the season so far to put Miami in very uncomfortable spots where you make those players that we all have respect for be the heroes? Okay, fine. if you can do what you've done in, Champions League finals or last week or whatever have you in heroic fashion, sometimes you just throw up your hands and say, okay. But when you play against Inter Miami, that is what you have to force them into. You have to force their greats to be great and then have a situation where, okay, our home fans here are going to do what they do. Our star players are going to do what they do, X, Y, and Z. That is the type of team talk that BJ is going to be having, laced with we do what we do as a team.
It's all gearing up for Decision Day this Saturday as Nashville Soccer Club takes on Inter Miami here at GEODIS Park. We hope to see you here, but if not, you can hop on MLS Season Pass on Apple TV or listen with our friends on 104.5 The Zone. Thanks for watching Spotlight.